My wife texted me at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm taking Ethan to your cabin this weekend. Don't be petty. After maxing out my credit card last month. I stared at the screen for a full minute, sitting in my rusted Ford pickup outside the hardware store, where I'd just bought screws for a bathroom repair she'd been nagging me about for weeks. Don't be petty. Right. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I'm Jake Morrison, 45 years old, and I fix things for a living. Plumbing, electrical, carpentry, you name it, I can repair it. What I apparently couldn't fix was my marriage to Marta, my wife of 18 years. She worked at Pinnacle Advertising downtown, making twice what I earned with her sharp tongue and sharper suits. The cabin she mentioned? That was my grandfather's place on Lake Millfield, about an hour north of our Rust Belt town of Riverside. I'd inherited it when Grandpa died 5 years ago. It was supposed to be our retreat, our escape from the suffocating small-town gossip and Marta's endless social climbing. Now she wanted to take her ex-boyfriend there, Ethan Reeves. I knew him from high school, same graduating class, different worlds. He owned Reeves Auto Sales on the south side, sold used cars with rolled-back odometers and hidden flood damage. Slick black hair, expensive cologne, and a smile that could charm the paint off a barn. He'd dated Marta senior year before she met me at community college. I typed back, "Enjoy." Then I called the cabin's security company and had her key code disabled. Their car, Ethan's cherry red Mustang convertible, sat baking in the sun outside the cabin for 3 hours that Saturday. I watched from across the lake through binoculars, drinking beer and eating gas station sandwiches. Marta wore her new white sundress, the one that cost more than my monthly truck payment. Ethan had on khakis and a polo shirt that screamed, "I peaked in high school, but I'm pretending I didn't." When they realized they couldn't get in, I called the county sheriff's office with an anonymous tip about a suspicious vehicle and possible bear activity in the area. 20 minutes later, Deputy Martinez showed up and told them they needed to leave for their own safety. The tow truck arrived an hour after that. I got home Sunday evening to find Marta and Ethan waiting in my driveway. Our neighbors, the Kellermans, the Washingtons, and that nosy Mrs. Patterson from 2 houses down, had all found reasons to work in their front yards. "You bastard," Marta hissed, her perfect makeup smudged from crying or sweating or both. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? About as humiliating as finding out your wife screwing her high school boyfriend? I climbed out of my truck, taking my time. Or discovering she's been using our joint credit card to buy him dinner at Romano's. Yeah, I saw the charges, sweetheart. Ethan stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "Hey now, Jake, let's keep this civil." I laughed, actually laughed. "Civil? You want civil? How about this for civil? Get the hell off my property before I call the cops and report you for trespassing." "This is half my property," Marta snapped, "and half my cabin." "Actually, it's not." The cabin was my inheritance, remember? Premarital asset, but thanks for reminding me to call my lawyer tomorrow. Mrs. Patterson was practically leaning over her fence now, phone in hand, probably recording everything for her Facebook gossip group. Perfect. Marta's face went white. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." That was Monday. By Wednesday, I'd already met with Tom Bradley, the best divorce attorney in 3 counties. By Friday, I'd frozen our joint accounts and canceled the credit cards. All legal, all above board, all documented. But that was just the opening move. Frank Kowalski ran Murphy's boxing gym in the basement of an old brick building downtown. 40 years ago, he'd trained Golden Gloves champions. Now he mostly worked with kids from the housing projects and middle-aged guys like me who needed to hit something that wouldn't hit back. "Your left hook's gotten lazy," Frank said, watching me work the heavy bag. "You're telegraphing it." I threw another combination, sweat dripping onto the cracked concrete floor. The gym smelled like leather and liniment and decades of honest sweat. It was the only place in town where I could think clearly. Marriage problems? Frank asked. Wife's cheating with her ex, flaunting it all over town. Frank nodded, unsurprised. At 62, he'd seen every kind of human drama play out in his gym. What are you going to do about it? I don't know yet. Well, let me tell you something, kid. Frank leaned against the ring ropes. Don't swing wild. Make 'em bleed with words and wit. Physical stuff's temporary. Humiliation lasts forever. That night, I sat in my kitchen, our kitchen, technically, though Marta hadn't been home in 3 days, and made a list. Not a hit list, nothing like that. A strategy list. First, I needed information. Marta thought I was just some dumb handyman who fixed toilets and changed oil, but I'd been watching her for months. I knew her passwords. She used our anniversary date for everything, her schedule, her favorite restaurants, and most importantly, her weaknesses. Marta cared about 3 things: her career, her social status, and her image. Ethan cared about money, his car lot, and looking successful. Both of them cared desperately about what other people thought. I could work with that. My phone buzzed. Text from our daughter Amelia, away at State University. Mom says you're being unreasonable. Can't you just talk this out? I stared at the message for a long time. Marta had gotten to her first, spun the story her way. Poor Marta, trapped in a loveless marriage with a bitter, controlling husband who wouldn't let her be happy. I typed back, ask your mother about the $3,200 she spent on Ethan's car repairs last month. Ask her about the hotel room in Columbus. Ask her why she's been lying to you for 6 months. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. The next morning, I drove to Pinnacle Advertising. The office was in one of the few renovated buildings downtown, all glass and steel, trying to pretend Riverside wasn't a dying Rust Belt town. I parked across the street and waited. Marta emerged at 12:30 for lunch, walking with her best friend Sophie Chen. Sophie was a real estate agent, all fake smiles and designer handbags. She'd been feeding Marta advice about the divorce, encouraging her to take Jake for everything he's worth. They headed to Cafe Luna, the trendy bistro where Riverside's professional class pretended they lived in a real city. I followed at a distance, then took a table on the patio where I could hear their conversation. Told him you were done playing house with a loser, Sophie was saying. It's 2024, Marta. You don't have to settle for some blue-collar nobody just because you married him when you were young and stupid. I know, but Jake's being so difficult about the money. He froze our accounts. So? You make more than he does anyway. And once Ethan's business really takes off. I almost choked on my coffee. Ethan's business was taking off all right, straight into the ground. I'd done some checking. Reeves Auto Sales was 3 months behind on rent, 2 months behind on their loan payments, and currently under investigation by the State Attorney General's office for odometer fraud. But Marta didn't know that yet. I paid my check and left, but not before taking a few photos of them laughing and gossiping. Social media gold, especially when paired with the right caption. That evening, I created a fake Facebook account. Nothing traceable, just another middle-aged guy with a generic photo and a handful of friends. Then I started following the social media accounts of everyone in Marta's circle. Her co-workers, her book club, her yoga class, the PTA moms she'd tried so hard to impress when Amelia was younger. Information was power, and I was about to become very powerful. Pinnacle Advertising's annual client appreciation party was held at the Riverside Country Club, the kind of place where membership cost more than most people made in a year. I'd been to exactly 2 of these events in 18 years of marriage. Marta usually made excuses about why I couldn't attend. It's just work people, Jake. You'd be bored. This year, I decided to unbore myself. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, wearing my best suit, the navy blue one I'd bought for Amelia's high school graduation. It was a little tight around the middle, but it would do. The valet looked at my pickup truck like it might give him a disease, but he took the keys anyway. The party was in full swing. Riverside's advertising elite mingled on the club's back patio, drinking wine that cost more per bottle than I made in a day. String lights twinkled overhead, and a jazz quartet played softly in the corner. I spotted Marta immediately. She wore a black cocktail dress I'd never seen before, another credit card purchase, no doubt, and was holding court near the bar with her boss, Richard Steinberg, and a cluster of junior executives. She looked beautiful and confident and completely in her element. She also looked shocked as hell to see me. "Jake?" She approached cautiously, like I might explode. "What are you doing here?" "Supporting my wife's career," I said loudly enough for nearby conversations to pause. "Isn't that what husbands do?" Richard Steinberg appeared at her elbow, all forced smiles and expensive cologne. "Jake!" "Good to see you, buddy. How's the handyman business?" "Booming," I said. "Amazing how many things need fixing when people stop taking care of what they have." Marta's face went pale. She grabbed my arm. "Can we talk privately?" "Sure thing, sweetheart." She led me toward the clubhouse, away from the crowd. "You need to leave. Now." "Why?" "I'm having a great time. Met some interesting people. Did you know your friend Sophie's been telling everyone you're planning to divorce me and take half my assets? Funny thing is, she seems to think I actually have assets worth taking." "Jake, please." Also ran into Ethan by the parking lot. Nice guy. We had a long chat about his business. Fascinating stuff. Did you know he's being investigated for fraud? Marta's eyes widened. "That's not—" "He said that was just a misunderstanding." "Oh, honey." I shook my head sadly. "You really don't know, do you? Your boyfriend's broke. Worse than broke. He's about to lose everything." Before she could respond, I walked back toward the party. But instead of rejoining the crowd, I slipped inside the clubhouse and found what I was looking for, the sound booth where the DJ was set up. The kid running the music was maybe 22, all skinny arms and nervous energy. His name tag read Tyler. "Hey Tyler," I said, pulling out my phone. "Marta Morrison asked me to give you this audio file for a special presentation. Can you play it through the main speakers?" I don't know, man." "Nobody told me about any presentation." I handed him a $50 bill. "She said it was a surprise for her boss. Anniversary thing." Tyler shrugged and plugged in my phone. "When do you want me to play it?" "Give me 2 minutes to get back outside, then hit it." I'd recorded the audio 3 days earlier, sitting in my truck outside the Riverside Motel on Route 9. Marta and Ethan had been meeting there twice a week for months, always the same room, always the same time. The walls were thin, and the window was usually cracked open. The recording was crystal clear. I made it back to the patio just as Tyler hit play. The jazz quartet stopped mid-song as Marta's voice filled the air, breathy and intimate. "God, Ethan, I can't wait to get rid of Jake. He's so pathetic, always following me around like some lost puppy. And the way he dresses, the way he talks, I'm embarrassed to be seen with him." Ethan's voice followed. "Once the divorce is final, we can be together properly. Take his money, take his cabin, take everything. Guy's too stupid to see it coming." "I know, but Sophie thinks I should wait until after the holidays. Make it look like I tried to save the marriage." More sympathy that way. The patio had gone completely silent. 60 of Riverside's most prominent business leaders stood frozen, wine glasses halfway to their lips, staring at the speakers in shock. Marta looked like she might faint. Her boss, Richard's face was stone. The junior executives were already pulling out their phones, probably texting the gossip to everyone they knew. The recording continued for another 30 seconds. More intimate details, more cruel jokes at my expense, more evidence of their calculated betrayal. When it finally ended, the silence stretched on forever. Then someone started clapping. Slowly at first, then faster. Others joined in until the entire patio was applauding, not for Marta, but for the show she'd unwittingly provided. "Well," Richard said finally, his voice carrying across the patio, "that was certainly illuminating." Marta ran toward the clubhouse, probably looking for Tyler, but I'd already retrieved my phone and slipped him another $50 to keep quiet. By the time she found the sound booth, I was walking calmly to my truck. My phone started buzzing before I reached the parking lot. Text after text, call after call, but not from Marta, from everyone else. The recording went viral within hours. Not internet viral. Riverside was too small for that, but small-town viral, which was infinitely worse. By morning, everyone from the grocery store checkout girl to the mayor's wife had heard about Marta Morrison's public humiliation at the country club. My phone rang at 6 a.m. Frank, from the boxing gym. Jesus Christ, Jake. You really did it. Did what? Don't play dumb. Half the town's talking about your wife's little performance last night. The other half's already heard the recording. I sat up in bed, my bed, in my house, where I'd slept alone for the past week. How'd you hear about it? My nephew Tyler works parties for extra cash. Kid's scared shitless, thinks he's gonna get sued or something. I told him to keep his mouth shut and stay out of it. Good advice. Jake, listen to me. This is gonna get ugly fast. Small town like this, people pick sides, and right now, most folks are picking yours. He was right. By noon, I'd received sympathy calls from neighbors I hadn't spoken to in years, invitations to dinner from Marta's former friends, and 3 different job offers from people who'd heard I was getting divorced and might need extra income. Marta, meanwhile, had called in sick to work. I drove past our house around lunchtime and saw Sophie's car in the driveway. Through the front window, I could see them sitting at the kitchen table, Marta crying while Sophie gestured angrily, probably planning damage control. Too late for that. My next stop was Reeves Auto Sales. The lot looked even shabbier in daylight. Rusted chain-link fence, cracked asphalt, and maybe 30 cars scattered across an acre of weeds. A banner hanging from the office trailer read, "Financing available. Bad credit okay." Ethan was in the office, pacing behind a metal desk covered with paperwork. He looked up when I walked in, and his face went white. "Jake, what do you want?" "Just wanted to see how business was going. Heard you might be having some cash flow problems." "Get out." "Relax, Ethan. I'm not here to cause trouble. Actually, I might have a solution to your problems." He stopped pacing. "What kind of solution?" I sat down in the plastic chair across from his desk. "Well, see, I've been thinking about your situation. You owe 3 months' rent on this lot, plus back taxes, plus that loan from First National. That's got to be what, 40,000? 50? How do you—" "Small town, buddy. People talk, especially when the state attorney general's office starts asking questions about odometer tampering." Ethan's jaw tightened. "That's bullshit. I run a legitimate business." "Sure you do. That's why you've got that 2019 Honda Civic out there with 180,000 miles, showing 45,000 on the odometer. Real legitimate. You can't prove anything." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken an hour earlier. "Carfax report says otherwise. Amazing what you can find with a VIN number and 5 minutes online." Ethan slumped into his chair. "What do you want?" "I want you to stay away from my wife. She's leaving you anyway. The recording doesn't change that." "Maybe. But here's the thing. Marta thinks you're successful. She thinks you're her ticket to a better life. What happens when she finds out you're broke? What happens when she realizes she's been screwing a loser who can't even pay his rent?" Ethan's face flushed red. "Screw you, Jake. No thanks, I'll leave that to Marta. For now." I stood up and headed for the door, then turned back. "Oh, one more thing. That cherry red Mustang you're so proud of, the one you've been driving to my cabin, might want to check your insurance coverage. Lot of vandalism in this neighborhood." I left him sitting there, staring at his paperwork like it might spontaneously combust. That night, I drove to Murphy's boxing gym and worked the heavy bag until my knuckles bled. Frank watched from the corner, occasionally calling out corrections to my form. "Feeling better?" he asked when I finally stopped. "Getting there. You know this ain't over, right? Woman like your wife, she's not gonna just roll over and take it. She'll fight back. Let her try. But Frank was right. The next morning, I woke up to find my truck's tires slashed and asshole spray painted across my front door. Mrs. Patterson from down the street was already outside taking pictures, probably for her insurance claim if the property values dropped. I called the police and filed a report, but Deputy Martinez just shrugged. Domestic disputes, he said. Gets messy. You sure you don't want to just work this out privately? Pretty sure. That afternoon, Marta came home for the first time in a week. She looked terrible. Red eyes, unwashed hair, wearing sweatpants I'd never seen before. She'd aged 5 years in 5 days. We need to talk, she said. About your vandalism hobby? I didn't... She stopped. Okay, maybe I was angry. But Jake, this has gone far enough. The whole town's talking about us. Yeah, it's embarrassing when people find out who you really are. I made a mistake, okay? I was confused. I was lonely. You were sleeping with your ex-boyfriend in a motel room while telling him how pathetic I am. That's not confusion, Marta. That's just who you are. She started crying then, the kind of ugly crying that smears makeup and makes your nose run. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Can't we try to fix this? For a moment, just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. 18 years of marriage, good times mixed in with the bad, memories of when we'd actually loved each other. Then I remembered the recording, the laughter in her voice when she called me pathetic. The cold calculation in her plan to take everything I had. No, I said, we can't. 2 weeks later, I sent text messages to 4 people, Marta, Ethan, Sophie, and my daughter Amelia. The message was identical. Meet me at the cabin, Saturday at 8 p.m. Time to end this properly. Come alone. I spent Friday preparing. Not weapons or anything dramatic, just some basic electronics and a lot of careful planning. The cabin had been wired for a sound system when I renovated it 3 years ago. Speakers in every room, all controlled from a central hub in the basement. I'd installed it so we could play music during parties. Tonight, it would serve a different purpose. Saturday arrived gray and stormy, with the kind of late autumn weather that made the lake look black and hostile. I got to the cabin at 6 p.m. and made my final preparations. Hidden cameras in the main room, nothing illegal, just standard security equipment, audio recording devices connected to the sound system. And one more thing, I changed all the door locks and installed manual deadbolts that could only be opened from the inside. Marta arrived first, driving her Honda Accord instead of riding with Ethan. She looked nervous, constantly checking her phone and glancing toward the tree line like she expected me to jump out with an axe. Ethan pulled up 10 minutes later in a different car, a beat-up Toyota that definitely wasn't his usual style. His Mustang was probably in the shop getting repaired after someone had poured sugar in the gas tank earlier that week. Couldn't imagine who might have done that. Sophie came next, her real estate agent's smile firmly in place despite the circumstances. She'd probably convinced herself she could talk her way out of whatever was coming. Amelia was last, looking uncomfortable in her college sweatshirt and jeans. My daughter had grown up beautiful and smart, but she'd inherited her mother's talent for believing what she wanted to believe. I waited until they were all inside before making my entrance through the back door. They were clustered in the main room, whispering among themselves like conspirators. "Thanks for coming," I said, stepping into the light. They all turned. Marta looked guilty, Ethan looked angry, Sophie looked calculating, and Amelia just looked confused. "Dad, what's this about?" Amelia asked. "It's about truth, sweetheart. Something your mother's been avoiding lately." I walked to the center of the room, noting the positions of everyone present. Marta near the front door, Ethan by the windows, Sophie close to the kitchen, Amelia on the couch. "See, I've been doing some thinking," I continued, "about marriage, about loyalty, about what happens when people decide to betray the person who trusted them most." "Jake, please," Marta started. "No, let me finish. Because this is important." This is the moment where we all stop pretending and start telling the truth. I pulled out my phone and pressed a button. The sound system crackled to life, and suddenly the room was filled with voices. Not the motel recording this time. Something new. Sophie's voice. The key is making him look unstable. Violent. Get him to lose his temper in public, then use it against him in court. Marta's voice. But what if he doesn't? Jake's not usually... Sophie's voice. Then we make him. Push his buttons. Make him snap. I know a lawyer who specializes in domestic violence cases. Ethan's voice. What about the cabin? That's worth what, 200 grand? Marta's voice. Premarital asset, remember? But Sophie thinks there might be a way around that. The recording continued for 2 more minutes, laying out their entire plan. How they'd manipulate me into doing something stupid. How they'd use false domestic violence charges to get a restraining order. How they'd claim I was mentally unstable and dangerous. How they'd take everything I had and leave me with nothing. When it ended, the cabin was dead silent except for the storm outside. That was Tuesday night, I said calmly. Sophie's house. Amazing what you can hear through an open window if you know where to stand. Sophie's face had gone white. You were spying on us. I was protecting myself. Good thing, too. Amelia looked stricken. Mom, please tell me this isn't true. Marta couldn't meet her eyes. Honey, it's complicated. It's not complicated at all, I said. Your mother decided she wanted a different life, and she was willing to destroy me to get it. The affair was just the beginning. Ethan stepped forward, trying to look threatening. You're crazy, Jake. Recording people, stalking us. Careful, Ethan. Wouldn't want to do anything that might end up on camera. He glanced around, suddenly noticing the small red lights blinking in the corners of the room. Security cameras, all recording. That's right, I said. Everything we say and do here tonight is being documented. For legal purposes, you understand. I walked to the front door and turned the deadbolt, then the back door, then the side door that led to the deck. What are you doing? Marta asked, panic creeping into her voice. Making sure we finish this conversation without interruption. The storm was getting worse outside, rain lashing against the windows and wind howling through the trees. Perfect atmosphere for what came next. Here's what's going to happen, I said. We're going to sit here and have an honest discussion about the future. About consequences. About what happens when you try to destroy someone who's smarter than you think. You can't keep us here, Sophie said. This is kidnapping. No, this is a family meeting. The doors aren't locked. I held up the keys. They're just secured for our privacy. Anyone who wants to leave can ask nicely. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating their faces in stark black and white. They all looked scared now, even Ethan. Dad, Amelia said quietly, you're scaring me. That stopped me cold. My daughter's voice, small and frightened, cut through my anger like a blade. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I never wanted you to be part of this. But you needed to hear the truth about your mother. I know, she whispered. I've known for months. I hoped it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Marta started crying again. Amelia, please understand. Understand what? That you've been lying to me? That you called Dad pathetic behind his back? That you were planning to frame him for domestic violence? The fight went out of Marta like air from a punctured tire. She slumped into a chair, defeated. I never meant for it to go this far, she said. I wanted something better. Better than what? I asked. Better than the man who worked 2 jobs to put you through college? Better than the guy who renovated this entire cabin with his own hands so you'd have a place to relax? Better than 18 years of marriage to someone who loved you? You don't understand what it's like being married to someone like you. Someone like me. Blue collar, limited, stuck in this dead-end town forever. And there it was. The truth she'd never been brave enough to say out loud. You're right, I said. I am blue collar. I work with my hands. I fix things that are broken. The problem is, some things can't be fixed. I walked to each door and unlocked them. Anyone who wants to leave can go now. But understand this, after tonight we're done pretending to be a family. Marta, I'm filing for divorce Monday morning. Sophie, I'm reporting your real estate fraud to the state licensing board. Ethan, I'm turning over everything I know about your business to the Attorney General's office. You bastard, Ethan snarled, finally showing his true colors. You think you're so smart, but you're just a loser who can't keep his wife happy. He took a swing at me, clumsy, telegraphed, exactly the kind of punch Frank had taught me to see coming. I ducked easily and came up with an uppercut that caught him square in the jaw. Ethan dropped like a sack of cement. Oops, I said, rubbing my knuckles. Guess I'm more violent than anyone thought. Sophie was already heading for the door, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. I'm calling the police. Good idea. Make sure you mention the part about planning to frame me for domestic violence. I'm sure they'll find that interesting. She stopped, hand on the doorknob, then left without another word. Marta helped Ethan to his feet. His jaw was already swelling, and he looked dazed. This isn't over, he mumbled through split lips. Yeah, it is. They left together, Marta supporting her broken boyfriend as they stumbled out into the storm. I watched their taillights disappear through the trees, then turned to my daughter. I'm sorry you had to see that. Amelia was quiet for a long moment. Are you really going to destroy them? I'm going to protect myself. There's a difference. Is there? I thought about that. Maybe not. But sometimes protecting yourself means making sure the people who hurt you can't do it again. She nodded slowly. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. Will you be okay? I'm 20 years old, Dad. I'll figure it out. But I want you to know, I'm proud of you for fighting back. Mom and her friends, they thought you were weak. They were wrong. After she left, I sat alone in the cabin, listening to the storm and thinking about what came next. The recording devices were still running, capturing every word for posterity. The security cameras had documented everything, including Ethan throwing the first punch. I had enough evidence to bury all three of them, and they knew it. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. You think you've won, but this isn't over. We'll find a way to make you pay. I smiled and typed back, bring it on. 3 months later, Riverside held its annual spring block party in Centennial Park. The whole town turned out, families with kids, teenagers trying to look cool, old-timers complaining about the music being too loud. Local businesses set up booths, the fire department brought their ladder truck for kids to climb on, and Mayor Davidson gave his usual speech about community spirit and supporting local commerce. I hadn't planned to attend. The divorce was almost final. Marta had moved in with her sister in Cleveland, and I was enjoying the peace and quiet of my newly bachelor lifestyle. But Frank convinced me I needed to get out of the house. Hiding makes you look guilty, he said. Show your face. Let people see you're not the monster your ex-wife tried to make you out to be. So I went, wearing jeans and a clean t-shirt, carrying a folding chair and a cooler of beer. I set up near the bandstand where the high school jazz ensemble was butchering a Duke Ellington song. People kept coming over to talk. Neighbors I barely knew, guys from the hardware store, women from Amelia's old school. Everyone had heard about the divorce, the recording, the cabin confrontation. Most were sympathetic. Always knew there was something off about that woman, said Mrs. Patterson, the same neighbor who'd been gossiping about us for years. Too good for the rest of us, you know. Marta seemed nice enough, I replied diplomatically. Oh, honey, I saw right through that act. The way she looked at your truck like it embarrassed her. The way she never invited any of us over for coffee. Some people just think they're better than everyone else. Around 4 p.m., I spotted a familiar figure across the park. Sophie Chen, looking uncomfortable in designer jeans and oversized sunglasses, talking to a small group of women near the face painting booth. She kept glancing in my direction like she expected me to come charging over. I didn't. I just sat in my chair, drank my beer, and watched the show. 20 minutes later, she approached my little setup. "Jake, how are you?" "Doing great, Sophie. How's the real estate business?" Her smile faltered. "It's been challenging. Some people have been spreading rumors about my professional practices." "Rumors? That's terrible. What kind of rumors?" "You know exactly what kind." I shrugged. "Sorry to hear that. Must be tough having people question your integrity." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "We need to talk. Privately." "I don't think so. I'm enjoying the music." "Jake, please. This has gone far enough. Marta's miserable, Ethan's business is ruined, and I'm losing clients because of what you did." "What I did? I seem to remember you three being the ones with the elaborate revenge plot." "That was just talk. We never would have actually what? Filed false domestic violence charges, tried to steal my property, destroyed my reputation." I stood up, and she took a step back. "Sophie, you made a choice. All of you did. Now you get to live with the consequences." She started to say something else, but the high school band had finished their set, and Mayor Davidson was walking toward the microphone for his closing remarks. The crowd began gathering around the bandstand. "Ladies and gentlemen," the mayor began, "before we wrap up this wonderful community celebration, I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of the people who make Riverside such a special place to live." He went through the usual list: volunteer, firefighters, Little League coaches, church organizers. Then he said something that made my blood freeze. "And I'd like to ask Jake Morrison to come up here for a moment." Every head in the park turned toward me. I felt like a deer in headlights. "Come on up here, Jake," Mayor Davidson called out, waving me toward the stage. I had no choice. Refusing would look weird, and I'd spent 3 months trying to rebuild my reputation in this town. I walked slowly to the bandstand, wondering what the hell was happening. "Folks," the mayor said as I climbed the steps, "Jake here represents the best of what our community has to offer. Hard-working, honest, always willing to lend a hand to his neighbors. And recently, he's shown us something else: the importance of standing up for yourself when people try to take advantage of your good nature." The crowd murmured agreement. I saw faces I recognized: customers, neighbors, people who'd heard the whole story and apparently decided I was the good guy. "Now, I'm not one to get involved in personal matters," Mayor Davidson continued, "but I think we all learned something from Jake's situation. Sometimes being a good person means fighting back against people who mistake kindness for weakness." More murmurs, some scattered applause. "So Jake, on behalf of the entire community, I want to thank you for reminding us that decent people don't have to be doormats." He handed me the microphone. I stood there for a moment, looking out at the crowd. 300 people, maybe more. The entire social structure of Riverside, waiting to hear what I had to say. I could have taken the high road, could have thanked everyone for their support and left it at that. Instead, I decided to burn it all down. "Thank you, Mayor Davidson," I said, my voice carrying across the park through the PA system. "You know, 3 months ago, I thought I knew what loyalty meant. I thought I understood marriage, friendship, trust, all those things that are supposed to hold a community together." The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. Then I discovered that my wife had been cheating on me with her high school boyfriend, that her best friend was helping her plan to destroy me in divorce court, that they'd all decided I was just some stupid handyman who wouldn't fight back. I saw Sophie pushing through the crowd toward the parking lot, probably trying to escape before I said something that would finish destroying her reputation. Too late for that. See, they made a mistake. They assumed that because I work with my hands instead of sitting behind a desk, I must be stupid, Because I drive an old truck instead of leasing a BMW, I must be poor. Because I'm quiet and keep to myself, I must be weak. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the kids had stopped running around. But here's what they didn't understand about small towns like ours. In a place like Riverside, your reputation is everything. And once you lose it, it's almost impossible to get back. I spotted Ethan near the back of the crowd, probably drawn by morbid curiosity. His jaw had healed, but his business hadn't. Last I heard, he was working at the Jiffy Lube on Route 9. So when my wife and her friends decided to destroy my reputation, they gave me permission to destroy theirs. When they decided to take everything I had, they gave me the right to take everything they had. I paused, letting that sink in. And you know what I learned? Sometimes the best way to fix something that's broken is to tear it down completely and start over. The applause started slowly, one person clapping, then another, then more. Within seconds, the entire crowd was on their feet, cheering like I'd just hit a home run to win the World Series. I handed the microphone back to Mayor Davidson and walked down from the bandstand. People reached out to shake my hand, pat my back, offer congratulations. It was like being the hero in a movie, except the hero was also the villain, and the villain had won. As I packed up my chair and cooler, I saw a familiar car pulling out of the parking lot. Marta's Honda Accord, driving fast toward the highway. She'd been there somewhere in the crowd, watching me destroy what was left of her reputation in front of the entire town. My phone buzzed. Text message. I hope you're happy. You've ruined everything. I typed back, you ruined it first. I just made sure everyone knew. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response. I drove home through the quiet streets of Riverside, past the houses where people were probably already calling their friends and neighbors to discuss what had just happened at the block party. By tomorrow, everyone in 3 counties would know the story. That night, I sat on my back porch with a beer, listening to the crickets and thinking about the future. The divorce would be final in 2 weeks. Amelia was doing well in college and had started calling me more often. My business was busier than ever. Apparently, being the guy who fought back against cheating wives and con artists was good for the handyman trade. I'd won. Completely, utterly, devastatingly won. So why didn't it feel better? Maybe because winning meant I'd become the kind of person who could stand in front of his entire community and systematically destroy 3 people's lives without feeling guilty about it. Maybe because I'd discovered I was capable of cruelty that would have shocked the man I used to be. Or maybe because I realized that the person I'd become was exactly who I needed to be to survive in a world where nice guys finish last. My phone rang. Amelia. Dad? I just got off the phone with Mom. Yeah? She's pretty upset about what happened at the block party. I imagine she is. She said you humiliated her in front of the entire town. She humiliated herself. I just made sure people knew about it. Amelia was quiet for a moment. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I want you to tell me the truth. Okay. Are you happy? Really happy? Or are you just satisfied that you got revenge? I thought about that for a long time. I don't know, sweetheart. Ask me again in a year. Okay, I will. After she hung up, I finished my beer and went inside. Tomorrow, I had 3 repair jobs lined up and a consultation about renovating someone's kitchen. Life was good. Different, but good. I'd burned down my old world and built a new one from the ashes. In the new world, I was the guy who fought back. The guy who didn't take shit from anyone. The guy who'd rather be feared than pitied. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was the life I'd earned. And for now, that was enough.